Hello, we're just testing to see if the microphone is working, and the answer is that it is working, which is great. Now I'm going to pause this. Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Whatever Amanda needs. Okay, so um, go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit. So what we're going to talk about now is what I'm calling the octopus template, which is what we worked on last week. And for that, we're going to be using Dreamweaver. So if you guys wouldn't mind starting up the Dreamweaver program. And if you have that octopus template saved on these computers, you can look at it. If not, you can just kind of follow along with what I'm doing on the screen here. So the question is, what is the next thing that we're going to do in this process of working with this octopus template, right? And the answer is that you are going to make it your own by taking your design ideas, your wireframes, your mockups that you did, and translating those into small enough logos and images and content that can go into this mobile format, right? Now I'll show you an example of a student who has done that with her design. Let's see. Okay, so here we have a design done by a student. I actually have a student who's taking this class as an independent study, so she meets with me at a different time. And this is what she's done. So she has taken the octopus template and she has replaced it with her graphics. So she made a logo called Food Cafe with a burger for this O here, and made it the same size as this Pick Octopus Car Wash logo, and replaced that logo with her logo. She manipulated the menu up here, what we're calling the hamburger. Maybe that's where she got the idea for this, right? Um, so that now it has things like our menu on there. Now, of course, you guys don't have to yet make any real pages that go here. These links don't have to work, but you might want to update them so they say things that'll be on your website. And you might want to change these colors too, and we'll talk about how to do that. Now then she replaced my graphic here with a graphic that she made about what's on her menu. And she did a very simplified animation here. She's going to work on this some more. You can see there's a burger, and I guess it's supposed to be a charbroiled burger. Actually, it looks to me like a burger that's just on fire. Excuse me, sir, my burger caught on fire.
That's the way it comes, sir.
Yeah. So this flame is just kind of like, I don't know, it's doing some weird sort of oozing thing instead of sort of, you know how flames kind of lick the air kind of thing. So it's, I don't know. If I saw that, I'd be like, I'd call 911 or something like that. But anyway, and there's also a footer down here that says her copyright information, which I can't quite get to because I can't pull the browser down long enough. And those are the requirements for this Project 1B, which is to replace your graphics, or my graphics, with your graphics, right? Now, I'm going to show you how to do that, but I'm also going to talk about the next step of what we would do after this. What the overall goal is for this project is to have you design for 3 formats. Okay, and those would be phone or mobile. Mobile is a little deceptive because, of course, tablets are mobile and so are laptops, right? Tablet and desktop. So what you're designing for right now is this, and you're taking your logo, and for example, you're making your logo 480 pixels wide, because that's how wide my logo is, and that's the width of the little mobile web page, right? And similarly, if you're making a graphic here, you might also make that 480 wide so that it matches up. In addition, you're making your own custom Flash animation, which we will look at an example of that tonight. And you're changing the menu with your own custom items, and you're putting in a footer, which would be something like a copyright symbol and your name of your company, right? Now, what we're going to do after this, after you guys have successfully completed this, is we're going to learn how to take those elements and redo them for a tablet. Like for example, if this is your logo and it's 480 pixels wide because that's the width of the layout for phone, what happens when your layout becomes something like 780 pixels for like a tablet? What do you have to do with your logo?
Expand it.
Right, expand it. You have to make it bigger. So here's a question. Would you take that little mini 480 logo and just blow it up?
No.
Why not?
Because it would be all pixelated.
Right, because it would be pixelated and would look bad. Because what's the rule of thumb when it comes to graphic design? You can go down, but you can't go up, right? In other words, if you make a graphic, if you take a graphic and you make it in Photoshop, right, and you make it 300 pixels wide, like 300 pixels wide at 300 dots per inch, right? You take that, you can shrink it down to half its size, 150 pixels wide, and it will still look good, right? But if you take this thing and you blow it up to twice its size, it's going to start to get a little blurry because the pixels, see what happens is when you go from large to small, you have enough information that you can say, okay, if I take this thing and make it half this size, I'm going to throw away certain pixels and then I'll come up with this design, right? But if you try to make this twice as big, like 600 pixels wide, the computer has to do something called interpolation. What's interpolation?
It's when it fills in the pixels automatically.
When it has to guess what information should be in those extra 300 pixels that you want. Like for example, let's say you had a smiley face here, and let's see if Amanda gave me a yellow. No yellow. Okay, so I do have a red though. So let's say that, I know, she's kind of a slacker. Let's say it's a demon face, right? Okay. That is not a picture of Amanda. Don't take that personally.
Wow.
Okay, because it doesn't have yellow hair because I don't have a yellow marker. Okay, so let's say that you want to take this picture of Amanda and expand it to twice the size, right? Well, there's a little black pixel here and there's a little red pixel. Well, when it expands it to twice the size, it needs to double the amount of pixels. So now the computer says, oh, there's a black pixel here, and there's a red pixel here, and this pixel here, oh, it must be half black and half red. The computer extrapolates or interpolates and guesses what that new pixel should be, and as a result, it looks blurry. Okay? That's why you don't go up with graphics, you can only go down, right? So what that means to us is that we're going to need an entirely new set of graphics. So we're going to need a logo that's 780 pixels wide. If we're going to take this graphic and still use it, it's only going to be this big, which means we're going to have to put some text in here and it's going to have to wrap around it, right? And we'll have to make sure that our flash animation is big enough so that when it resizes, it still looks good too. And the same is going to be true for when we go to the desktop and we have like, 1200 pixels wide, right? So this is the stepwise process that we're taking. We're starting out small, and then we're going to make new sets of graphics and basically new layouts, which will come into play when the user is looking at the website on a different device. Yes, John?
So, say I don't use Photoshop for my logo and I use Illustrator.
You can still do it.
Well, I'm just saying because Illustrator is a vector and it's going to spread. It's not
Yeah, but right. So Illustrator, when you take the Illustrator logo and you save it for this website, you have to save it in a
Photoshop.
bitmap format, which would be like JPEG or PNG, right?
Right.
Same would be true if you take it and expand it in Illustrator. And you're right, Illustrator is different in that this thing right here is only true with bitmap images, like in Photoshop. In Illustrator, it's vector, which means it's just lines, right? And with lines, you can expand those and they'll still look good because it's a mathematical equation. It's just increasing the
But
size of the
I
line.
can't run Illustrator on the website. Is that what you're getting at? So I have to put it into Photoshop.
Yeah, you have to put it into what you might call a Photoshop format, which is a bitmap, in order to get it into the website. Okay, so let's talk about how the practicalities of how this will happen. Now, if you guys were, I know some of you have the octopus on your screens and some of you don't, and that's fine. But if we were to look at this octopus template right now, we would see that, and let me make this big so we can see as much as possible. Okay, when we open up the Octopus index page, we see the index page is called index.html, and then we see a whole bunch of other tabs in there, and those are different files that are called things like responsive-nav.css, responsive-nav.js, boilerplate.css, style.css, and respond.min.js, right? Now, a lot of those files we're never going to touch, right? The ones that we'll never touch are the ones that end in JS. Those are JavaScript files that we will not deal with. And the ones that we will deal with are the ones that end in CSS, which is, of course, a cascading style sheet. Now, if we go to the link called source code, which, of course, is the index.html page, if we look at that, we will see that this graphic here, and this graphic here, and this flash animation, that they're all dropped in here on the web page. Now, I've actually moved them off of mine, but if you guys are looking at yours, if you look down on line 49, you'll see a section called header, and in that section, you will see this logo stuck in there, right? And then there will be a section called main, and in that section, you will see this logo stuck in there, right? And you guys will just be replacing that with your information. Now, I'll go ahead and I will go ahead and grab that information so I can put it in for you. So like in the main section, let me grab all this.
Like putting this info on the website?
I'm sorry?
You putting the info on the website? You said you were going to save the info or something. Didn't you?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Huh? Oh,
Okay,
okay.
actually, you know what? If I save this as index 2, I think I can bring up the old index page. Save this as style2.css, save. And then let me save this as index2, file save as. Oh, crap. I want to save this source code. Okay. I'll save as index2. Okay, if I save that, and then I go open the original index page, and then I'm looking at my source code, and I scroll down. Okay, so here's what you guys see. So you see on line 49, you see a section called header, and inside of that section called header is an image, which is this code right here. And you can see that that image is called logo.png. It's this one right here. And it is stuck inside of the header section, which is this section right here. Now, so your first task is going to be replacing these images with your own images. So in order to do that, you're going to have to determine what size this is, okay? And so to do that, what you can do is you can look at your files window, and I'm going to click on this button here to make that small. And we can navigate to, I'm going to go to my desktop where my fluid files are. And inside your fluid files folder, there's going to be an images folder. And inside there, there's going to be something called logo.png. Now that can simply be opened up by Photoshop. I'm just dragging it down to Photoshop here. And in Photoshop, you can go under image size, and see that the actual width of this, oh, I said 480, but it's actually 418 wide by 74 high, 74 pixels high. So this is the size you'll make your logo, right? And then you have a choice. You can either save your logo into this images folder here, right? And if you call your logo logo.png, it will replace this logo and it will automatically show up instantly as the logo for the website. So that's the easiest way to do it. Now, if you want to, you could call it logo 2, and then all you'd have to do is go here and change the link to show logo 2, and it would show your logo. But certainly the easiest thing to do is to open this logo graphic, maybe put a new layer on top of here, create your own logo and save it in exactly the same place with the same name, and it will pull it up. Right? Yes.
What about using SVG graphics for
Okay, what does SVG stand for?
scalable vector graphics?
Okay.
But I mean, like using it for the logo instead of doing that whole.
You can do that. You can try that. Just go ahead and try it. I welcome you to experiment with that, because what's the idea behind scalable vector graphics?
That it is fluid and responsive.
And then it moves, right? So try something like that and see if you're successful. And if you are, we'll demo it, and maybe that's something we could use.
Okay.
All right.
Where do we find
Did I
the-
see any other hands? Or you had a hand. What?
Where do we find the octopus thing at?
Oh, those files?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to go to the website. Can I borrow your mouse here? Okay, so you want to go to, oh, you're open there? Okay. So if we go to interactive design, and we go down to, let's see. Okay, there it is. All right, so then we go show. Okay, so let's see if we can put this on the desktop. And then extract the files. Extract. Okay, so now, if we take this index page, I think we can do this. Oh, here, so we'll just go to Dreamweaver. We'll open it from Dreamweaver to the easiest thing. So we'll expand that. File, open. Go to our desktop. We'll open Fluid Files. Thank you. There it is. Okay. All right. So now you guys might be thinking, oh, for this project, all we're doing is replacing graphics. That's boring. We want to create our own web pages. But what I'm trying to do is sort of gently involve you in this process and then hand over more and more work for you guys to do. Because you have a lot of things to figure out with regards to this template. You have to figure out where the styles are that control the things that you want to do. Like how, for example, are you going to change the background color of the menu items, right? How are you going to make a flash animation and stick it in there? So you got plenty to worry about, so I'm going to try and help you out. So that's what you would do, is you would replace that with your logo. Now the same is true of the coupon that I have in there. If we go and we look inside of the images folder, we also have a file in here called Pink Octopus Coupon. Now by the way, those of you who want to follow along but are not able to because you don't have the files, you can go to our website and you can download them onto your desktop and then just extract the folder. So all you have to do is go to our website and click on Interactive Design on the left-hand side. Then scroll down to last week and click on the link called Files. That will bring in a folder called Fluid Files, which is a zipped folder. You just have to extract those files and then open the index page that's in there with Dreamweaver, and you'll get this, right? Now, what I did was I just opened the coupon file, and you can simply go into Photoshop and go under image size and look that the width of that is 480 and the height is 359. And you can once again replace that with your own graphic.
You open that in InDesign.
I opened it in Photoshop. And that'll be pretty easy for you. Now, what becomes more of a challenge is to create some sort of an interactive design. And for that, you have to use Flash. Now, I'm telling you guys in advance that Flash does not work on mobile Apple devices. So if you make this cool looking website and you're somehow able to put it up on the internet and you try to look at it on your iPad or your iPhone, you're not going to see it. Now the reason I'm having us make things in Flash is because Flash is still used in some industries. It's used in gaming, it's used in other industries. And so you do want to have that on your resume that you can use Flash. But we will eventually replace whatever animation you make with an HTML5 version, because HTML5 has the advantage of working everywhere, whereas Flash only works in specific areas. Now, if you want to make a Flash animation to go at the bottom of your web page there, which is part of the requirement of this, you have to go into Flash and you have to create a new document, right? So if you want to follow along with me, you can start up Flash, and I'll just make the world's simplest animation, and you guys can make a much more sophisticated animation if you like.
How about a bouncing ball?
What's that?
How about a bouncing ball
Or, ball.
or a smile,
Okay.
like a dentist?
Yeah, you can make whatever kind of animation you like. It should be something that relates to your web page, right? Like for example, she had a burning hamburger, right? Now, if you go into Flash and you click, File New to create a new document, you can click on ActionScript 3 here and then hit OK. But before you do that, you might want to change the width and the height. So for the width, we might want to make it 480 pixels, right? And for the height, I'm just going to leave 400 because it's just a decent number. We also want to look at this thing called the frame rate, which is set at 24 pixels or 24 frames per second, FPS. And that means that in 1 second of time, your playback head will go over 24 seconds. You also might want to look at this background color. You might like white, or you might like black, or maybe a color that fits with your design, right? So I'm going ahead, I'm making my animation 480 pixels wide, 400 pixels high, with a black background and leaving the default 24 frames per second. I click OK, and this is what's made for me, this blank document here. Now, all I'm going to do something really simple. I'm going to take some text and I'm going to make it appear on the stage via movement, right? So what I'll do is I'll click on my type tool and I'll choose a color right here in this color picker, and I'll choose like pink because I have the Pink Octopus Car Wash. And then I'll simply click and drag out a text box here, and I'll say like, Pink Octopus Car Wash, right? So I'm just typing some text here. I highlight it. I go over here to my paragraph options in my properties, and I click on the center alignment, and then click on my selection tool. So now I have this text, right? Now, my visual here of my stage in Flash is set to 100%, but I can go to the upper right corner of this stage area and click on this drop-down menu and change it to 50%, so that now I can see not only the stage area, which is the animation, but I can see off of that area. So now I can click on my Pink Octopus Car Wash and I can drag it down below this section, because my ultimate goal here is to make this text sort of appear. Like I want it to just kind of come up and appear like that, and that's my animation, right? Now you guys can do anything you want. You can make a bouncing ball, you can make a graphic fade in, you can use sound, you can be creative, do whatever you want. Now in order to make this thing, in order to animate this thing, I first have to turn it into a symbol, all right? And what I do is I go up to Modify, and I click on Convert to Symbol. Now, something has to be a symbol for it to be animated. So I'm simply going to call this pink text. All right? I'm going to leave it as a movie clip, and I'm going to click OK. Now watch what happens. Right now you're seeing a blue line around this. Watch what happens as soon as I make it a symbol. Okay, do you see that now it has a little white circle and a white thing up at the corner? That's how you know that something is a symbol. If it's not a symbol, it can't be animated, right? Now, I'll also go down here to my layer, and I'll call this layer pink text, because that's going to help me organize my interactive design. Now, if I was really doing this for the website, I would do something much more sophisticated, but I'm just doing something simple to show you how easy it can be, right? Now, we're on frame 1, and on frame 1, as soon as I put some content in here, Flash put a little black dot in the first frame telling me that this is something called a keyframe, which means it has content on it, and that content can be manipulated. Now, we know that the Flash is set at 24 frames per second, which means in 1 second, this playback head is going to roll out here all the way to frame 24. And so I can think to myself and think, how many seconds do I want this animation to take to come on the screen? How many seconds do you think it should take?
1.
1. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll click down here in frame 24. On the Macintosh, I'm going to hold down my Control key. On a PC, you can just right-click, and I'm going to say Insert Keyframe. Now, when I do that, it puts another black circle here, which means that there's a keyframe there, which is this content, and then it puts a gray color in between the two, showing me that this content actually starts here, stays the whole time and then ends up here, where it is on frame 24. Now, if I want to create motion, I have to do two things. On frame 1, it's right here, but on frame 24, I want to move it up to there, right? So that's the first thing I'll do. I'll click on my content, I'll hold down my shift key, and I'll move it straight up. Now, why am I holding down my shift key?
The stage line.
Because it aligns it and keeps it in the same vertical plane, right? Now, the next thing I have to do, if we look at this animation, we can grab our playback head, which is this little red guy here, and we can scrub it, which means going back and forth. And basically what happens is in this animation so far is it stays in frame 1, it stays off the screen, and it stays there until frame 24, and then automatically, boom, it pops onto the screen. Well, that's not a very interesting animation, right? So what we have to do is we have to take this area in here, and we have to create what's called a motion tween. And a motion tween is, or a classic tween, which has the same effect. A motion tween basically says, move whatever content this is in a fashion where in frame 1 it's here, and in frame 24 it's here, but go ahead and move it so that every frame that passes between them, every frame here, moves it a little closer to its goal, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on a Macintosh, or on a PC you would right-click, I'm going to control-click on a Macintosh, and I'm just going to create something called a classic tween. And the classic tween will turn this area lavender and put an arrow in here showing that you're moving from frame 1 to frame 24 and that animation is occurring. And you can see that the animation is occurring by scrubbing back and forth over this. Now, if I want to preview this, I can do Control, Test Movie, and Flash Professional. It'll launch a little browser and it'll loop it for me, right? Now, once that thing is there, I might want it to stay there, right? So I could either go down here to, let's just say 48, that's another second. I'm trying to see if I'm at 48, 49, 50, and I can right click on that and say insert keyframe. Okay, and so now what happens when we watch this is it animates up and it stays there, in this case for a second, and then it loops. Now as long as we take the looping off, we can just have this thing go up and just stay there, or maybe it could do additional things while it's there. Maybe the octopus could come out and sing a little song, Now, in addition to this effect of it moving, you can add special effects to your objects, your symbols, which could be text or graphics. You can also make them fade in if you want. And you can do that by using something called the color effects, right? So for example, if I click on this object right here on my stage, and I go over here to color effect in my properties box, I can click on this drop down and I have all of these choices that I can work with. I have brightness, tint, advanced, and alpha. And alpha is, of course, transparency, right? Well, when this pink octopus car wash gets up to this point, I want it to be 100% in the alpha department, which is what it is currently, which means you can see it. However, on frame 1, when I click on this keyframe here and I click on my object, I would like the alpha for that to be 0. So I'm going to click on my little slider here and I'm going to move it down to 0, which has the effect of making this completely transparent. Now, because I've put a classic tween in there, you can also do a motion tween, anything that occurs between frame 1 and 24 will change over this period. So that means in frame 1 it's down here and it's completely transparent, but in frame 24 it's up here and it's completely opaque. That means that between these two frames it's going to not only move, but it's going to move from going transparent to fully opaque, right? And so this is the kind of effect that you can get. You can have something fade in, you can have it fade out, you can add a music soundtrack down here, you can have multiple elements come in. You can basically, the sky's the limit, right? So let's say this is my little animation that I want to use. Now we have to talk about how we're going to get this into the web page itself. Okay, and before I do that, does anybody have any questions about this part? Yes, wait.
In Flash, it's possible to view the vector path for classic tweens.
Can you use a vector path?
Can you use a vector path or use one? Sure.
Can you
I'm pretty
use
sure
a
you
vector
can use
path?
one.
I'm not.
Do a straight line like you just did by moving it.
Okay. Oh, can you move it? Okay. Yeah, you actually can adjust. You can attach things to a vector path. You can make a path, and you can attach something to a vector path and you can have it move along it. Yes, absolutely.
And do you know if there's any way to like view a vector path so that it can be edited for something like this? Like,
Yes, absolutely. Like, and in fact, in the Flash book, I forget what chapter it is. It might be chapter 3. That's the one you.
Yeah, it's one of the issues I had. I got it to work, but
Yeah, there's a
direction,
there's a little spaceship and a little alien guy, and you actually take him along a path and you orient him to the path. Did you?
No, I was actually just asking, like, you've already set up the motion. Is there any way to view the path and then edit from there for classic tweens?
Oh, I see. Not for classic tweens, but for motion tweens, I believe there is. Yeah, classic tween is the old way to do it, and I do it because that's how I learned Flash, and it's really quick for me. But motion tween has way more flexibility. Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to get this thing into our Octopus webpage, right? So what we're going to do first is we're going to save it. So we'll just go File, Save As, and I'll just go ahead and call this pink text. And this is going to be saved as an FLA document, which is a master Flash file, right? But in order to get this into the website, I have to save it in another format. Does anybody know what that is? A Swift file, okay? Which is .swf, okay? That's called a Swift file. And what that is the file that needs to be in your website folder in order for this to display. This is the actual animation itself. So when you make an animation or when you make any animations in Flash, you're going to save two files. You're going to save a .fla file, which is the Flash master file. It's like a Photoshop file with all the layers on it. And then you're going to export an SWF. It's kind of like saving a JPEG where all the layers are flat, right? Now, in addition to an SWF, Flash is also going to make an HTML page. And that HTML page will have the code, the content on it that you need to put into your HTML page in order for this thing to display, okay? So, one clue that will help you guys out is when you save your FLA file, save it inside that Fluid Files folder. Because when Flash exports the SWF, it will export it into the same folder as where you saved your FLA. So that means if we call this thing pinktext.fla, when I do the export, it's going to save a pinktext.swf and a pinktext.html into that Fluid Files folder, and they'll be easy to find. So here's how you save it. You go under File, and then you can check Publish Settings, so you click on that. And it's hard to read, but basically you can leave all the defaults here, and it basically says that it's defaulting to ActionScript 3, Flash Player 11.8, and so on and so forth, right? Now, I'm going to cancel out of this, and now that I've checked my settings, I'm going to go under File, Publish, and I'm going to click Publish, and what it's going to do is it's going to write it to my Fluid Files folder. So if I go look into my Fluid Files, you'll notice now that I have a pinktext.fla, plus I have the pinktext SWF and the HTML, right? Now what I'm going to do, the pinktext SWF has to stay in this folder for the web page to find it, but what we manually have to do is open up this HTML file, grab the code from there, which is used to display the SWF, and paste it into our Octopus file, okay? Now let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on this pinktext.html. I'm going to drag it down to Dreamweaver. And I'm going to open it up, and you're going to see this little creature right here, which is the, this is a holder which shows you where the Flash animation is. Now if we look down here, we're going to see that there is a div with an ID of Flash content, and inside there is a bunch of code which tells us, hey, this is the Flash animation, right? And what it's doing is it's calling the movie, which is called pinktext.swf, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on from this div here at the top to this div here at the bottom, the end div. I'm going to copy that. Then I'm going to go over to my index page, and I'm going to scroll down to where I have my Flash animation.
And you can see that this has all this stuff. It's the same stuff. It says object type, and it has all that same crazy Flash stuff, right? So I'm just going to highlight that, and I'm going to use my paste command. Click over here. Let's see, click on that. Click over here. And go to that. And then I'm just going to paste in my object there. I think I'm going to take off these div tags that were surrounding it because I noticed that I don't have them in my object that I originally had there. And then I'm going to go ahead and check that out by previewing my animation and my web page. And here it is. Okay, now granted, this is the world's most boring animation, but you guys get the idea, right? Now, I know I'm going through this kind of fast, and when you guys are on your own, you're going to be like, what the heck did he do here? What should I do? But, you know, we've got a couple weeks till this thing is due, so you'll have time to come in, to work with me in class, to send me emails, to meet with me one-on-one in my office during office hours on Tuesday, whatever you need to get this thing done. But what you should be doing now is redesigning your logo and your graphic to fit in here, coming up with an idea for your Flash animation and beginning to work on that, and starting to replace my code with your graphics and your images, right? Now, the last thing that I'll show you about this is how to update the colors of your hamburger menu up here. And so if we click on this, we'll notice that mine are black, right? But and by this, I'm talking about the background on these divs here. And you might want to make those purple or pink if this was your site. Now, in order to help us in the pursuit of this, we are going to use a special tool. There's a couple tools that you can use. If you're using a Chrome browser, you can click on the little hamburger in Chrome here, and you can come down to Tools, and you can come to something called Developer Tools. Now, in Developer Tools, you get this window that opens up at the bottom. You can click on this little eyeglass, or I should say magnifying glass, and when you do that, when you roll your mouse over any section of the website, the code for that becomes visible down here in your little window. So you can roll over something like this black, background and click on it, and then down here it will come up with the code for that. Now, you guys are finding it impossible to see because my screen is so incredibly tiny. Let me see if I can blow that up a bit. Okay, so you can see that I clicked on that contact, and what it did was it showed me here is the HTML, which displays that, and over here is the CSS, right? And we can see that there are certain things that are being affected. Like, for example, if I roll over this text here, the color changes to this gray color, which is 999, right? And if I go over here and I scroll through here, I can see different text affecting, different CSS text affecting this block of images here, right? Now, it's not actually images, it's just controlled by CSS. So for example, I can see that there's CSS that says the background is 000, which is black. Well, I can click on that, and I can type in, let's see, 0000CC. And now I've made it blue. Now, this little window right here, which once again is accessed only in Chrome via this hamburger by going to Tools and Developer Tools, this window is a preview of how the changes will look if you change the actual CSS code, right? So I can look over here and I can see where this code is. It's on something called response-nav.css, and it looks like it's on line 23, right? But right here, I'm just getting a preview of it, and I'm not actually changing it. In fact, it stays as this black in reality. But if I want to change it for real, I would go into Dreamweaver. I would go to the response-nav CSS. I would go to approximately that area, and you can see right here it's actually line 31. And we can see in the real website here that it's black. But once again, if I change the color to 0000CC, and then we preview it, hopefully it'll work. And you can see that now they're blue, right? So Chrome has this built into it, but other browsers need it to be displayed via a plugin called Firebug. And I will show you that plugin. Let me go ahead and preview this page in Safari. Okay. And here we're looking at it in Safari. And I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get Firefox. So that I can easily show you how to use this. Okay, so we're downloading Firefox. And while we're downloading Firefox, let me go ahead and show you Firebug. If you type into a browser like Firebug plugin or something like that and hit return, you will find a website called getfirebug.com. And what happens is if you visit this website when you're in a browser that supports Firebug, you will be able to install it on that browser. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm just installing Firefox now because I like the browser, is I'm going to open up my Firefox browser. And Firebug, I think, comes in a couple different flavors. I think it works in Chrome and a couple other things. So I'm opening my Firefox browser. And then I'm going to go to getfirebug.com. And now I'm just going to click on this big red button that says Install Firebug. And click on this download. And then click on this little green button that says Add to Firefox. And click Install Now. And it says that it has been successfully installed. Now, once Firebug is installed in a browser like Firefox, you will see this little bug, this Firebug, appear here. If you click on that Firebug, you get the same type of window that opens up at the bottom here, just like in Chrome. So you get your HTML showing up over here, and you get your CSS showing up over there. So if I go back to Dreamweaver, and I say that I want to preview this, I got to add Firefox to my window here. Okay, so now I can click on this and I can say Preview in Firefox. So it's launching the browser and it's launching this window. Okay, so now we can see this. Oops, I'm sorry, it launched it in that. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Let's try again. Preview in Firefox. A copy of Firefox is already open, only one is open at a time. Okay. My apologies. 3's the charm, guys. Preview in Firefox, and it launched Firefox. Okay, so now you see that I have the bug over here, Firebug. I click on that. Now what you do once you have Firebug turned on is you come over here and you click on this little blue icon here that has the arrow, And now you can roll over any section of this and click on it, and over here it'll show you the HTML, and over here it will show you where in the CSS it is that can be affected. So in this case, it's in the style.css. Let me make this bigger. Oh, I can't make that bigger. Let me make this bigger. I can't make it any bigger, sorry. But anyway, the point is, if you click on something, it highlights it down here, and then over here, it shows you not only the style sheet that affects that, but it also tells you the line number in the style sheet, the code line number. Yes?
Sounds simple, but, so, assuming I use Chrome, because that's usually the browser I use.
Right.
Is it transparent to any other browser once I make the changes
Yes.
using that, or,
No, well, once again, let me iterate this, which is when you come over here, you can make a little change actually right here in this window, and it will just be a preview, right? But that can tell you what you want to do, and then you have to go into Dreamweaver and actually change it on the style sheet.
right,
Then when you look at that file in any browser, the change will be made. Okay, and you know that in Chrome it's already built in
right.
to the tools. Okay, so it's on browsers like Firefox and Safari that you can use Firebug, and it's an incredibly useful tool. It will solve a lot of problems. It will help you locate where to make changes.
So it's a good app to have anyway.
It's a brilliant app to have, and if you're doing interactive or web design, you have to have it. Or use Chrome or something else like that. Now, for those of you on PCs, there's similar software out there for PCs. I don't use a PC generally. I use a Mac, so I don't know what it is, but you can look out there and see what is available to you. Like Internet Explorer might have it, probably has it built in, just like Chrome. Okay, questions so far? No. Okay, let's go back to the website and see if there's anything else we need to touch on today. Okay, Firebug. No, got that. Okay. All right, so what I want to give you guys some time to do is to work on your websites. You can work on them here in class. You can go home, go to the library, whatever you need to do. But start making those changes that we talked about. Start creating graphics for the mini website, the one that's the phone mobile one, and start putting them in, saving them in that fluid files folder. You can give them the same names as me, so we'll replace the existing ones. Start using Firebug or the tools in Chrome to identify where exactly the colors can be changed for things like the menu item here, and change those menu items so that you have names that correspond to your web page and colors that correspond, and start working on a Flash animation that is somehow relevant to your web page that can be then dropped into your web page and sort of complete the picture. Don't forget also to change the footer information so that it's your company name. Okay, so any other last questions? Yes, John?
Yeah, speaking of Flash, I'm an Android user, okay?
I'm
So-
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's pretty cool. But anyway, so I mean, later on as we get into Edge and HTML5,
Right.
it's universal. It doesn't matter whether it's a
Right, so the reason I'm demoing Flash is partially to show you that it's not universal. It still gets used, and so you need to know how to use it. But we will eventually replace this Flash animation with HTML5 so it is universal.
So if I run into some place where there is a Flash animation and I have to continue
Right,
grading that or something.
right. Like for example, some websites have both.
Right.
They will show Flash first, and then if the user's browser tells them it can't see Flash, like it's a iPad, it will default to a backup HTML5 animation, right? So that's why you might want to learn this technology. Some people are still putting both in there. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, you guys are good to go. Thank you so much.